Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. We are here with Matthew Creedican, the former Navy SEAL. And as you know, we're part of Technology United for Ukraine, and we are always recruiting for engineers, scientists, technologists. People want to help out with our social media, fundraising, and if you would like to join Matthew Creedican's personal R&D team, put that in the comments when you go to our website, which is in the comments. To become a volunteer, put in there, I would like to join the Navy SEALs team. This is going to be elite. So if you join it, you will be elite because you'll be led by one of history's greatest warrior, like the Spartans, the 300s. All right, let's get right into this. So Matthew, I am going to share the screen here. And we are going to go and look at what is going on in Ukraine. Now, I want your feedback on deadly Russian weapons being jammed in Ukraine. This is the gliding bomb is now failing for the Russians due to new jamming that the Ukrainians have. What is your take on this? What is your feelings, how this is going to impact the front lines?
As long as it's working, it's going to make a huge difference. That's probably one of the most impactful weapons the Russians have because it's a lot of explosives coming down, 1,000 pounds, 2,000 pounds. Really annihilates positions. Even if it doesn't kill people, it just knocks them out of the fight. And it also makes it quite difficult to defend a spot when you know you're the target of a salvo of those types of bombs, especially if they're rather accurate. We'll see how long it takes them to come up with some new algorithms, because generally these kind of things are, obviously there's been this big cat and mouse game between the jamming and then the different types of GPS, GNSS type signals. So the as long as it's effective, it'll really make a gigantic difference. It's ability to defend an area.
How far do these usually reach out? I'm not actually an expert on the gliding bomb. How far do they typically go? Do you know how far they can get these things to go?
I have to look it back up, but it's probably 50, 60 kilometers. I'm just off the top of my head. I know they have some newer ones out that have longer, bigger wings that come out, or more efficient wings. And I think they had some in production with rocket boosters.
Yes, I saw that.
It's also kind of a function of which aircraft is launching it, and then what the threat envelope is, because they'll fly real fast, get up high, then release it, and let the speed take it further. So there's a lot of information online. I haven't looked it up lately.
Okay. Interesting. Makes you wonder what type of new jamming system, where did it come from? Because there's no reports of any new types of jamming systems coming in. So it's kind of interesting, but I'm sure very top secret. All right, let's get in.
Yeah, the jammers, a lot of it just, it's not that it could be new, but a lot of it's just playing around with the
frequencies.
With the frequencies and kind of tuning it to look. What you're trying to do is make it look very similar to the real signal, and just a little bit different. There's these algorithms in there, like a Kalman filter, which is basically just a way to determine one sensor stream from another. And there are human set parameters in that, but it's how they determine one signal over another, especially if it's like GNSS. So you have a bad signal, a true signal, a multipath signal, and it's trying to select the right one. And generally, when they start jamming these things, somebody's figured out a way to mimic the real signal really better than what the algorithm can distinguish the two. So it's probably something like that. And I think all the sides their electric engineers, radio engineers are working on like different antennas, different diversities, different types of software as well. So this stuff could be fixed overnight, or it might take a while. Kind of it's the efficiency of the military unit that can identify the problem, come up with a solution, then distribute that problem or distribute that solution.
Excellent. All right. So the next topic I want to get your feedback on. And as everybody knows, I'll do daily updates either in a short or long format video like this on the losses of the Russian army as of the 28th today. Now, I want to let everybody know these are not my numbers. This is from, as you'll see up there, the Ukrainian Special Forces. So if you put in the comments that I did this, I did not make this, and I'll get into how these numbers are determined. And the amount of those soldiers in the Russian army that have expired on the battlefield now has hit 874,560, with 2,710 casualties being added. So that's between wounded and expired. The wounded has hit 2.6 million, with 23,680 added on that too. So this number is huge. And that is determined so again, that's by multiplying this top number, 874,000 by 3. So huge. 2.6 million is just massive. And then if we look down here at armored combat vehicles, it's 38. That was added recently, tanks 13, and then the most critical, and I think Matthew will agree with me, is artillery. Once all that, you can get rid of all the tanks, but you cannot get rid of all the artillery, and 92 were added. Matthew, when you look at these numbers, what are your thoughts from a strategic level?
Yeah, well, I was just looking up the numbers and these are all estimates, obviously, but I think the Russians have about 20 million estimated military age males. So if that number's true, where you're looking at 2 million wounded plus, that's like a tenth of their force out of action. The wounded, those are estimates. I think they multiply by 3 on the number of estimated killed. So they also do wounded numbers a little bit differently, where you could have the same guy wounded multiple times.
Okay, I never thought about it that way.
So these are all rough numbers. Like definitely there've been a lot of people dying. When it comes to I think you were pointing out like the artillery, and you've had an increased destruction of those. It's probably an indication that the drones. I mean, look, the numbers look like they've swapped in the last couple months, where artillery used to be the main casualty producing weapon, where it's like around 70%. Now it's 70% or more. It's probably more now, because that's even an old stat estimated that's caused by drones. So as you get more drone pilots, more experienced drone pilots, additional technologies that can bypass the REB and the jamming, guys that can, additional platforms that can go deeper, then yeah, you're probably going to see these numbers continue to climb. Well, until you basically both sides start to recognize that artillery and tanks are more and more outmoded, and you get more and more drones. So I think you're probably starting to see, like, you don't see a lot of videos, but being around, I definitely see a lot more companies with their own individualized home on jam targeting, electronic visual targeting systems. Not great, but they're starting to work. So that's probably also another indication of why those numbers are starting to go up.
Mm. And if we go back a couple days too, you'll see that here's the proof. We've seen yesterday 69, 34, 26, 44, 54, 66. I mean, these just numbers are a massive for, your artillery, because you got to remember the crews are being lost too, right? So you're losing all of that institutional knowledge as you not only take the artillery piece out, but also the individual. So your ability to train other troops goes down because you're losing people with the experience. So let's go into this number here. And I was interested in getting your take on it. Let's see if I can blow this thing up, if it'll let me. Maybe it won't. Oh, there we go. All right. This is a number I've been watching, Matthew, and it is particularly, this is vehicles and fuel tanks, but this number right here has gone up dramatically, probably over the past 3.5 months. I mean, in the hundreds, sometimes almost 200 some days. And I was thinking there focusing on these fuel trucks while also focusing on the fuel depots inside Russia to really, kill the logistics. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you're probably right. It makes sense to go after that, and it also makes sense that you can hit those if you have longer range systems. So this is, again, like most likely, a strategic objective, but also they have the tools now. They can go hit them, and even a few teams starting. Think about it this way: a team starts off with a new mission profile. They're like, oh, we need to go to this new location, hit this target that's further out. There's a lot of little details you have to work out, from how and where you launch from, like how you detect the enemy system, like how the profile you go after to attack it. But the first couple missions, you might not be all that good at it. But by the 10th, 20th, 30th mission, you're quite good at it, and you've worked out a lot of the kinks. So you'll see the effectiveness rise dramatically. And then those teams start to teach additional teams. So hopefully what this is kind of a general spreading of knowledge and enhancement of crews.
That's interesting you said that, a general spreading of knowledge, because that's something that's important, is best practices, sharing what works and the strategies and tactics. And maybe they're all sharing where and how we hit these fuel trucks, when to hit them. I'm sure there's a lot of intel to that. So yeah, interesting to say it that way. So now we'll go to the last thing here. I'd like to get your take, which those who watch know I'm always following Pokrovsk, and there was several areas of attack that we see. Now I'm going to see if I can zoom out here. Just so people know, this is where Pokrovsk is. It's down there, the city of Donetsk. So this has been a heavy focus of attack by the Russians. They've been working hard. They have lost a really ridiculous amount of troops here. Their big area was, this is a little big here. Let's make that smaller. Of focus was this area right here. This is where they were going. They were going to go, it looks like they were going out this way to take out this supply route. This is the city of Pokrovsk. And it looks like if you look here, there was another area they were attacking, which was out this way. And their tactic. They would have come out here, and then eventually surrounded this area. They would have came like a pincer move. They would have went out this way and then surrounded the whole area and then cut off all the supply lines and starved the defenders in the city. But now we're seeing these little bluish areas is this counteroffensive by the Ukrainians. You'll see in here, very effective. And the amount of losses for the Russians have been absolutely astronomical in this area. But they seem to be fighting back. What do you see them doing in this area? What's your take? What's your idea? I'd love to see what you think about what's happening down there. And also, why are they pushing back now so incredibly well, where they've struggled in the past on counterattacking?
Yeah, it's been a while since I looked at that part, but that Pokrovsk is a kind of what you'd probably consider a center of gravity for the front. That is a main supply hub, and one of the last defendable pieces of terrain. If that falls, there's not a lot of terrain features between there and the Dnieper River. So, the Russians wanting to capture that, if there's, contemplated quote unquote peace talks, them having that strategic point really gives them a lot of dominance in that region. And, prior to that, when the Avdiivka fell and the areas that they pushed up through, those areas are supposed to have multiple lines of defense that ultimately weren't well defended. They had, put money forward for it, but there was, say that money just didn't make it there. So the Russians had a lot of initial success. I believe they did replace some of the commanders in that area and take a harder look at it, because they also realize it's an extremely important strategic point. So it's, you're probably seeing one, a burnout of the initial Russian offensive where they threw a lot at it, trying to break the Ukrainians and exploit their initial breakthroughs. And now you've finally seen the Ukrainians kind of solidify their lines and push additional units because they know it's a critical area to keep. So, hard to say how much, additional reserves the Russians are going to be bringing up and like what they have stockpiled. The hope is that they haven't, they're not ready. They'll take them a while to restock to set up another offensive push. That would be significant. And, this is kind of the resetting time for them, and the Ukrainians are taking advantage of it. I think they have substantially improved the defenses in that area.
And I think what you were saying about the Dnipro is if they took this and they could move their way out to here, right? Because that was the main supply hub. And then here, there's just not as vibrant supply routes in this area, I guess, is what you're saying. And they could make their way out. And now they've got the Dnipro right here. And they, this is a natural barrier. And now they could take this whole area in here. Is that what you were kind of saying?
Yes. Like you get a substantial chunk of land because it just, either force the Ukrainians into fighting a very tough defensive fight that's extremely hard to defend, and therefore they would take a lot of losses, or they would basically have to give it up.
And so I just want to say something to everybody who says, Matthew probably don't know nothing about Ukraine. He is in Ukraine. He has fought in Ukraine. He's been there three years now. So he does know all about these front lines. He's an expert at it. So, let's just give him his strategic credit there. So let's do this now. Let's get out of here. And all right. So appreciate you, Matthew, coming again and giving your input. We'll be doing this a couple times a week. And there's another gentleman who's a wounded warrior from got injured in Iraq. He's going to be joining the team too. So, appreciate all you guys coming by. And remember, Slava Ukraini, and join Matthew's R&D team. All right.